1937. A Japanese aircraft flies from Tokyo to London in just 51 hours, faster than anyone thought possible. The world realizes Japan isn't just catching up, it's redefining aerial battle, from Recon planes to bombers. These aircraft changed the face of aerial warfare in World War II. 9. Mitsubishi Ki-15. Let's start with number 9. The Mitsubishi Ki-15, Type 97 Command Reconnaissance Craft. Its nickname? Karigane, meaning wild goose. Now, you might be wondering why a reconnaissance plane is on this list. Well, the Ki-15 wasn't just any recon aircraft. In 1937, a civilian version owned by the Asahi Shimbun newspaper, named Kamikaze, flew from Tokyo to London for King George VI's coronation. 51 hours, 17 minutes, and 23 seconds. 15,357 kilometers. Without a single mechanical issue. Here's what's fascinating. Just 3 years earlier, most entries into the McRobertson Air Race to Australia had either broken down, crashed, or limped to their destination, needing constant repairs. The Ki-15 flew to London and back to Japan in 4 days. In combat, the less peaceful version of the Ki-15 was the first truly modern combat aircraft in the Second Sino-Japanese War. Its speed made it difficult to intercept, setting the stage for the even more formidable Ki-46 we'll discuss later. The Ki-15 was outclassed fairly quickly, but it proved something vital. Japan could design and build world-class aircraft without any foreign help. Number 8. Mitsubishi A6M Zero. Number 8 is the most famous Japanese aircraft of all time. The Mitsubishi A6M Type 0 carrier-based fighter. You know it as the Zero. The Zero's name comes from the last 2 digits of the Japanese year 2600, when it entered service. And here's something remarkable. It was the only Japanese aircraft commonly referred to by its official designation by both sides in the Pacific. The Allied reporting name Zeke never really caught on. But why were the Allies so shocked by the Zero when Chinese pilots and American volunteers had been fighting it for over a year before Pearl Harbor? And the Chinese even had a captured example with a detailed report sent to Washington as early as February 1940. Well, that report was filed before anyone in Washington bothered to read it. The overriding Allied response, when their pilots finally met the Zero in combat, was a horrified surprise. They'd been warned. They just didn't listen. The Zero was designed by the brilliant Jiro Horikoshi under a specification so challenging that Nakajima didn't even submit a rival tender. They thought it was impossible. Horikoshi had to use a brand new aluminum alloy called Extra Super Duralumin, only developed by Sumitomo in 1936, to make an aircraft light enough yet strong enough to meet the speed, range, and maneuverability requirements. And he did. From 1940 to late 1942, the Zero was utterly dominant, the finest carrier fighter in the world. It remained dangerous until war's end in the hands of experienced pilots. Number 7. Mitsubishi Ki-67 Hiryū. At number 7, we have the Mitsubishi Ki-67, a Type 4 heavy bomber. Its name? Hiryū, the Flying Dragon. Let's be real. Japanese bombers during World War II were, on the whole, not particularly inspiring. The Navy's G4M, while sleek and possessing incredible range, had a nasty habit of bursting into flames. The Army's Ki-49, though less flammable, was disappointing with a meager bomb load, inadequate defenses. But the Ki-67 Hiryū? A complete revelation. The Army was utterly delighted with it. Published specs show a bomb load of 1,070 kilograms and a range of 2,800 kilometers. The B-25 Mitchell could supposedly carry over 2,000 kilograms and fly 2,170 kilometers. The B-25 could carry that bomb load or fly that distance, not both. The Ki-67 could fly its full 2,800 kilometers with its entire 1,070 kilogram bomb load. It could also do so at a speed the B-25 could only dream of, with agility unmatched by any other medium bomber. But what kind of insanity would lead designers to convert a heavy bomber into a fighter? something virtually no other nation ever attempted successfully during the war. The answer lies in Japan's desperate situation by 1944. The Hiryū was so impressive, so fast and maneuverable, that it was developed into the Ki-109 fighter variant. This beast was armed with a 75mm cannon in the nose, intended to intercept B-29 superfortresses. Unfortunately, its ceiling was too low to reach the high-flying Boeings. In its intended bomber role, the Ki-67 was far more successful. It attacked the U.S. Third Fleet off Formosa and the Ryukyu Islands, struck at Okinawa, operated in China and French Indochina, and even hit B-29 airfields on Saipan and Tinian. Once the Japanese High Command accepted using humans as missile guidance systems, the Ki-67 became the basis for the Ki-167 Sakura Dan, Cherry Blossom Special Attack Bomber. It carried a 2.9-ton thermite-shaped charge that could destroy a tank from 300 meters away through directional blast alone. Thankfully, around 5 examples may have attempted operational missions, but none ever hit their targets. They were shot down or lost to technical issues, a sad end to the career of an outstanding aircraft. 6. Kawasaki Ki-100. Few fighters in history have successfully switched from an inline engine to a radial or vice versa. The Ki-100 is one of the finest examples of this rare breed, and its existence was pure desperation rather than careful planning. The Ki-100's predecessor, the Ki-61 high-end Flying Swallow, was a fine fighter noted for its unusual toughness. Allied intelligence, as usual, tried to figure out which Western aircraft it was copied from, and settled on something Italian due to its resemblance to the Machi MC-202. To be fair, they were half right. The Ki-61's HA-140 engine was a license-built Daimler-Benz DB601. Unfortunately, engine supply never kept up with airframe production. The HA-140 was proving highly troublesome in service. So much for German technical prowess. By December 1944, 200 engineless Ki-61 airframes were sitting in the open at Kawasaki's factory. Then, on January 19, 1945, a B-29 raid on the Akashi plant effectively ended HA-140 production. Game over. This added massive urgency to ongoing work re-engineering the Ki-61 to accept the radial HA-112 engine, which was in relatively plentiful supply and much more reliable. The conversion of the first Ki-61 took just 7 weeks. The new engine was nearly twice as wide as the inline HA-140, had a different thrust line, and was 45 kilograms lighter. Chief designer Takeo Doi wasn't keen on the engine change and doubted it would be successful. But in the absence of any viable alternative, the work went ahead, and the result exceeded even the most optimistic expectations. The Ki-100 was marginally slower than the Ki-61, but could outclimb and outmaneuver it. Tested against a captured P-51C Mustang, the Ki-100 was slower but much more maneuverable and could outdive the American aircraft. In a dogfight between equally skilled pilots, the Ki-100 would always win, though the P-51 could break off and escape at will. And against the F-6F Hellcat, the Ki-100 was believed superior in every regard. Sadly, the Ki-100 only entered service in April 1945. But it saw enough action to be considered the most reliable of the Japanese Army's fighters. On June 3, 1945, the 244th Sentai claimed 7 Corsairs destroyed. On July 25th, in a huge dogfight with Hellcats, 12 F-6Fs were claimed shot down, and this time, no Japanese aircraft were lost to the F-4Us. The entire career of the Ki-100, from design conception to final surrender, took place in a mere 10 months. 5. Aichi D3A. At number 5, the Aichi D3A, the Type 99 carrier-based bomber. The Ju-87 Stuka remains the archetypal dive bomber of the war, but it performed most of its deadly work on land. The D3A was the preeminent Axis dive bomber at sea, sinking more Allied warships than any other Axis aircraft. It was also the first Japanese aircraft to bomb an American target when it spearheaded the attack on Pearl Harbor. Now, here's something fascinating. Aichi was a watch manufacturer that decided to get into aviation in the 1920s. Throughout the interwar years, Aichi maintained a close partnership with Henkel, despite the Treaty of Versailles forbidding German military aircraft research. But how did they get away with it? Simple. The Japanese delegate on the League of Nations inspection team simply told Henkel in advance when they were coming. Henkel made sure nothing illicit was ever found. A most satisfactory arrangement for all concerned. The Henkel influence is clear in the D3A's beautiful elliptical wing, closely related to Henkel's own HE-70 Blitz. By the time of Pearl Harbor, the D3A was a proven combat aircraft, having been in action over China for 2 years. But once again, the Allies decided this Japanese dive bomber was of no huge concern. Big mistake. At Pearl Harbor, admittedly all the ships were conveniently stationary. But the D3A followed this up by sending 3 U.S. destroyers to the bottom in February and March 1942. In April, during the Indian Ocean raid, D3As achieved hits with 80% of their bombs against maneuvering ships at sea. That's an incredible success rate. The D3A sank HMS Hermes, the world's first purpose-built aircraft carrier. These strikes were conducted in concert with the Nakajima B-5N torpedo bomber, in exactly the same combined approach the Americans would later use with the Curtiss Helldiver and Grumman Avenger. The glory days for the D3A were the first 2 years of war. Gradually, it was outclassed by improved Allied fighters. The faster Yokosuka D4Y Suisei Comet took over from the late 1943. But even totally outdated, the D3A could still inflict terrible damage. A D3A sank the American destroyer USS William D. Princeton as late as June 10, 1945, in a kamikaze attack. Number 4. Kawanishi N1K-J Shiden. The Japanese kept converting heavy bombers into fighters and newspaper-owned monoplanes into attack aircraft. So it shouldn't surprise you that the Navy's finest land-based fighter derived from a seaplane. There were several instances of floats being added to fighters during World War II, the Spitfire, F-4F Wildcat. Even the Zero flew in floatplane form. But the N1K-J was the only fighter to apply the process in reverse. The float was removed from the powerful N1K-1 Kyūfu strong wind floatplane fighter and replaced with wheels to create the N1K-1J Shiden. The resulting aircraft, though essentially a lash-up, proved faster than the Zero and had better range than the J-2M Raiden interceptor. It was thus rushed into production. Compromised by the mid-wing configuration of the Kyūfu, intended to keep the floatplane clear of the spray, the initial N1K-1J required unusually long landing gear, which caused much trouble. But in the air, the aircraft proved exemplary. It demonstrated excellent speed and truly remarkable maneuverability, boosted by a mercury switch that automatically measured angle of attack and extended the flaps during turns. This system was known as the combat flap. A redesign eliminated the mid-mounted wing flaw, creating the low-wing N1K2J Shiden Kai, Kai meaning modified. It featured a simplified, lightened structure with fewer parts, built in fewer man-hours with improved performance. Unfortunately, B-29 raids on Kawanishi factories meant only 415 of the improved variants were produced, compared to 1,007 of the original conversion. In combat, when the engine ran properly, the Shiden proved formidable, even against the latest Allied fighters. On one occasion, Corsairs of VFM-123 were surprised by Shidens that they mistook for Hellcats. A 30-minute aerial combat ensued. 3 Corsairs were shot down, another 5 damaged, and 3 more so badly damaged they were dumped at sea after recovering on their carrier. The Corsairs claimed 10 Japanese aircraft destroyed. In reality, no Japanese aircraft were lost to the F-4Us. The Shiden's reputation was magnified by its role as sole equipment of the 343 Kokutai, formed on Christmas Day 1944, as a particularly unwelcome present for the Allies. This unit comprised the Navy's most experienced surviving fighter pilots, legends like Saburo Sakai and Naoshi Kano, equipped with the finest aircraft available. Even during the chaotic conditions over Japan in 1945, the 343 Kokutai exacted a considerable toll, and the N1K2Js remained the equal of any Allied fighter until the end. 3. Kawanishi H8K. Number 3. The Kawanishi H8K Type II flying boat. The Pacific during World War II was the largest battlefield in history, yet all but a tiny fraction of it was water. As a result, the flying boat was of particular value in this huge watery realm. And the best flying boat fielded during the entire conflict? The Kawanishi H8K. It was the most heavily defended and fastest flying boat serving with any combatant and remained so until the war's end. In 1929, Kawanishi sent a technical team to Short Brothers in the UK, then acknowledged world leaders in maritime aircraft design. After building a few short Rangoons under license, Kawanishi mass-produced the H6K, which boasted incredible range, unrefueled patrols of up to 24 hours. Unfortunately, the H6K was slow and vulnerable to fighter attack. The H8K was an altogether more formidable machine, the greatest technological leap in this kind of aircraft ever achieved. Designed by Shizuo Kikuhara's team, the H8K featured a deep, slender hull and shoulder wing. The hull initially gave serious trouble. The prototype was prone to severe porpoising, and spray completely inundated the 2 inner engines. On one occasion, the spray was so bad the propellers were damaged. Careful redesign, conducted with hydrodynamic scientists from the University of Tokyo, eliminated these issues. The H8K's hull became the most efficient fitted to a flying boat during the war. The H8K wasn't just for patrol and reconnaissance, it was also a torpedo carrier and bomber. It was intended to operate with supply ships at which it could refuel and rearm, effectively giving it transoceanic range. On March 4, 1942, only a month after entering service, 2 H-8Ks attempted to bomb Pearl Harbor in a follow-up strike. Refueled at sea by 2 submarines, their target was the oil storage depot. Cloud cover resulted in mission failure. The bombs were dropped without aiming and exploded harmlessly. Nonetheless, the H-8K's impressive range allowed it to bomb the U.S. fleet at Espiritu Santo Island, Jaluit, the Shortland Islands, and the Phoenix Islands, distances up to 1,850 kilometers, and missions lasting up to 18 hours. Unlike most Japanese aircraft, the H-8K was considered a difficult target for Allied flyers. It was fast for its size, rugged, well-armored, and featured a highly innovative fire suppression system for its huge fuel tanks. It was also fearsomely well-armed, 5 20mm cannon and 5 7.5mm machine guns. The H-8K-2 could carry 2 Type 91 torpedoes, or up to 2,000 kilograms of bombs or mines. The only advantage the H-8K didn't possess was numbers. Production was painfully slow, and after B-29 attacks commenced, it was dropped completely, so Kawanishi could concentrate on Shiden Kai fighter production. By war's end, only 4 airworthy examples existed. 2. Nakajima Ki-84 Hayate. Built for an offensive that had stalled by the time it appeared, the Ki-84 barely fought the kind of campaign it was designed for. But even during the chaotic death throes of the Empire, the elegant Ki-84 managed to demonstrate performance as good as the world's best. The Ki-84 was conceived in the happier times of early 1942. The Japanese Army and Navy were trouncing any force opposing them, but the appearance of superior Allied fighters was realized to be only a matter of time. The Army standard fighter was the Ki-43 Hayabusa Peregrine Falcon in the Zero mold. Low-powered engine, light structure, low wing loading, delivering almost unbelievable agility at the expense of everything else. This had been supplemented by the Ki-44 Shoki Demon Queller, a dedicated interceptor focused on maximum speed, dispensing with the fixation on agility. But it was too specialized to succeed the Ki-43. A fighter combining the best of both designs was sought, and the Ki-84, designed by Yasumi Koyama, was the brilliant result. The finest Japanese fighter aircraft to see service in large numbers during the conflict. On its combat debut in China during August 1944, the Ki-84 enjoyed a situation that wouldn't be repeated, facing the U.S. 14th Air Force critically low on fuel and supplies. The first unit was the 22nd Sentai, formed of highly experienced pilots who'd been part of the Hayate service trials and knew their aircraft inside out. Here was an aircraft displaying all the virtues of earlier Japanese fighters, but possessing none of their shortcomings. Fast, powered by the lusty 18-cylinder Nakajima Homare, with water methanol injection delivering 2,000 horsepower at takeoff. Well armed, with two 13mm machine guns and two 20mm cannon. Tough, featuring self-sealing fuel tanks and armor, and maneuverable. On debut, it could outclimb and outmaneuver any Allied aircraft in service. Intended as a multi-role combat aircraft, the Ki-84 featured hardpoints for up to 250 kilograms of bombs under each wing, and was a highly effective fighter-bomber, notably during the Okinawa fighting. It couldn't last, of course. Allied bombing and blockades took their toll, forced to rely on unskilled labor while dealing with ever lower quality raw materials. The build quality of the beautiful Ki-84 began to suffer. By early 1945, standards were so lax that individual Ki-84s exhibited seriously differing performance. Hydraulics failed. The Homare engine proved troublesome. Undercarriage legs even snapped on landing due to incorrectly tempered steel. At the same time, combat attrition saw the quality of Japan's fighter pilots inexorably dwindle. Nonetheless, a Ki-84 in decent shape gave even a mediocre pilot a fighting chance. Testing of a captured Ki-84 at Wright Field highly impressed American pilots and technical staff. Despite noting that very little effort had been made to make the pilot's job easy or safe, the report highlighted the unusually strong construction and stated the handling and control characteristics are definitely superior to those of comparable American fighters. So the conclusion? The Ki-84 may be compared favorably to the P-51H and P-47N. That's praise indeed, given the P-47N was barely operational before VJ Day, and the P-51H failed to enter service before war's end. Part of the reason for this spectacularly good showing? The superior fuel available to U.S. testers. The captured example clocked 427 miles per hour at 20,000 feet, while the official Japanese top speed was 388 miles per hour. British test pilot Eric Brown was similarly impressed, comparing the Ki-84 favorably against the Griffon-powered Spitfire Mark 14, and stating it was the finest Japanese aircraft he flew. Had it been available earlier, before the industrial rot set in and all the best pilots were dead, the magnificent Hayate could have been a very significant problem for the Allies indeed. Number 1. Mitsubishi Ki-46. And now, number 1. The Mitsubishi Ki-46 Type 100 Command Reconnaissance Aircraft. Reconnaissance aircraft seldom get the attention they deserve, performing totally essential work, usually alone and often unarmed. In the Ki-46, the Japanese possessed the world's finest example of this aircraft type. As a reconnaissance platform, it was unmatched by any other machine until the appearance of the Mosquito. It proved very difficult to intercept throughout the conflict. As late as September 1944, a Spitfire Mark 8, itself no slouch, required the removal of armor and a pair of machine guns to achieve the performance necessary to effect an interception. According to an oft-repeated claim, the Germans were impressed enough that they obtained a manufacturing license without success. If true, this paints the Ki-46 in a remarkable light. For the race-obsessed Nazis to admit that a superior aircraft was built by an inferior people, that was praise indeed. What's not in doubt is that the Ki-46 was the only Japanese aircraft deemed of sufficient interest to be sent to the Soviet Air Force Technical Institute in 1945 for evaluation. Even the Japanese Navy, who detested the Army and everything to do with it, were forced to concede that the Ki-46 was superior to any aircraft they possessed. They used it for missions over New Guinea and Australia. Curiously, the Ki-46 program started with the decidedly unimpressive Ki-46I. It handled poorly, failed to meet performance estimates, and was used largely for evaluation and training. An engine change to the Mitsubishi HA102 with two-stage, two-speed supercharging transformed the aircraft. When the Ki-46-2 entered service in July 1941, its performance rendered it immune from interception. Throughout 1942 and 43, the Ki-46 swanned about in near-perfect safety, with only an occasional, unlucky, or careless example falling to Allied fighters. The improved Ki-46-3 was faster still due to weight reduction, more powerful HA102 engines with direct fuel injection, and revised fuselage design resulting in near-perfect streamlining. In this form, it could achieve a maximum speed a shade over 400 miles per hour. 654 examples of the Ki-46-3 were built, a total that would have been higher, but bombing and an earthquake at Mitsubishi's Nagoya factory crippled production. Development of a replacement, the Tachikawa Ki-70, resulted in an aircraft with inferior performance. As a result, the Ki-46 was improved further to become the turbocharged Ki-46-4. Although it never entered production due to manufacturing difficulties, its performance was incredible. In February 1945, 2 prototypes flew from Peking to Yokota in 3 hours 15 minutes, covering 1,430 miles at an average of 435 miles per hour. By contrast, the cruising speed of the contemporary and much vaunted Mosquito PR Mark 16 was 318 miles per hour, and its absolute maximum 407 miles per hour. Loved by its crews and respected by its enemies, the Ki-46 designer Tomio Kubo's masterpiece was for most of the war in a class of its own. Now, here's the twist that changes everything about how we view these aircraft. Every single one of these magnificent machines, from the pioneering Ki-15 to the untouchable Ki-46, shared a tragic flaw that had nothing to do with their design, engineering, or the skill of their pilots. It wasn't technological inferiority. It was Japan's failure to recognize that modern warfare is not just won by quality, but by quantity, logistics, and most critically, the ability to protect and replace your experienced pilots. While American pilots who were shot down over the Pacific were often rescued by submarines and flying boats, returned to service, and went on to train the next generation, Japanese pilots who ditched at sea were usually lost forever. The institutional knowledge and hard-won experience all gone. By 1945, Japan had fighters like the Ki-84 and Ki-100 that could match or beat anything the Allies flew. But they were often piloted by teenagers with minimal training, flying aircraft built by students and forced laborers using inferior materials, burning low-octane fuel that crippled engine performance. The bitter irony? When the Americans tested captured Japanese aircraft using proper fuel, skilled mechanics, and experienced test pilots, they were shocked to discover these machines were world-class. The Ki-84 could match the P-51H. The Ki-100 could outmaneuver the Corsair. The H-8K influenced post-war American flying boat design. Japan built some of the deadliest aircraft of World War II. They just couldn't build enough of them, fuel them properly, or most tragically, keep their best pilots alive long enough to matter. So there you have it, the 9 deadliest Japanese aircraft of World War II. So which of these 9 aircraft do you think had the biggest impact? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that subscribe button as we've got more fascinating content coming your way.